Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 1st July 2017. The first article of importance for today is for a more representative house. It is about improving the quality of functioning of the Parliament and other representative houses in India. What are the challenges to it? Productivity of the legislative houses is coming down. So the number of days the Parliament is in session, it is coming down from 120 to 60 days. If you take cross-country perspective, it is around 140 to 150 days in US and UK. So most of the times, when the Parliament is in session, so it is getting wasted due to stalemate situations between the ruling and opposition parties. So because of this, the quality of legislation has drastically come down. And most of the laws are being passed in a hasty manner, including the constitutional amendment laws, without much debate. And above all, financial control is the important control of the Parliament, and many of the demands for grants are guillotined. They are not discussed, they are just considered to be discussed and voted. So that's the reason why the legislative control is said to be weakening. So what has to be done? If you take Orissa, a law has been passed which clearly states that a legislature has to meet for a minimum of 60 days in a year. So similarly, a law can be passed in Parliament stating that Parliament shall meet for 120 days in a year. So that kind of law can be helpful. Because in India, Parliament cannot start a session by itself, and the government has to start a session. Only the constitutional provision is the maximum time between two sessions shall not be more than 6 months. And the second thing is, the quality of legislation can be improved through constitution of constitutional committees and or else improvising the position of the parliamentary committees. So constitutional amendments, they have to be thoroughly scrutinized by the constitutional committees, and every other bill shall be submitted to parliamentary committees for their scrutiny. And third is the freedom of speech for the MPs. Now, on what dimension, where the people are voting, MPs are voting, it is not been clear. It means they are bound to take up the party line and party whip. If they violate that, they can be disqualified under anti-defection law. So in this case, the freedom of speech is being limited for the MPs. If you go to UK, there is a procedure called free vote. The members are allowed to vote as per their will rather than to the party's whip. And whip of the party can be issued only in the exceptional circumstances. The similar thing can be done even in the case of India. So the freedom of speech for MPs shall be allowed for. And this provides for a kind of accountability to the people. So let's take Andhra Pradesh when it is being divided. And people can question where your loyalties are. But High Command's position is bound to be taken by the Congress MPs, though they are not willing, from the other side of the Andhra Pradesh. So the next is the research support for MPs. If you take United States of America, there are special funds are allocated for the research support. A special office has been provided for the MPs, Senate members to take up the research support. So in India's case, no separate budget is been given for the research. And second, there is a library and reference research and information services system, but it is understaffed, and most of the reference material, it has to be taken up by the MPs themselves within the parliamentary library. So in these circumstances, without providing for the research support, the quality of legislation of the MPs or quality of debate of the MPs is not bound to increase. And the next important aspect is the representativeness. Women do not form significant representative factor in our legislative houses. They never cross a 12% of the total strength of the house. That shows they are clearly underrepresented. So the gender bias cannot be removed from the legislative process, legislation itself, without giving due space for women. So women reservation bill also needs serious attention. So these are the points, and it can directly get into your notes, this article. And the next is, entering into the age of GST, you already know that the GST is launched today. So the GST which is so launched, it also had certain hiccups to be addressed. India's GST is not as like the other countries. It is a unique style which has been devised for India. And but GST is a law, or else it is a process which is going to evolve over a period of time. This is what the finance minister has repeatedly stated. As the states get more and more confidence, the number of rates within the GST are expected to come down. In all the developed countries, the maximum rates that are existing are just 3, but in India's case, there are many. And second thing is, the state is taken as a jurisdiction for GST, and it means that, again, state to state problems will exist. If I buy something in Kolkata, I cannot claim input credit in case of in Andhra Pradesh. So because the state is one single jurisdiction. But what is one tax, one nation over here? You are going to get a same rate for the same product across the states. That is one tax, one nation. And the next is, and also all the products will have one single rate of taxation. But different products will have different taxation. Today's GST. And most of the products have 18% of taxation. And on the other side, finance minister has clearly stated that it will improve the economic growth, decrease the tax avoidance, reduce the inflation. These are the various positives given by the finance minister. So what about these things? Now, the transactions cost in India is going to come down. To do a particular business, to increase compliance, the administrative costs are very high, they are expected to come down. Investments are expected to flow. Because of this, growth is expected to go up. But the real potential of GST can only be viewed when the system is seamless. As of now, there are many teething problems for the GST, and most of the people do not have the clarity related to GST. So education of the people becomes very crucial. And second is, much of the important products which are essential for economy, such as petroleum products, these are being kept out of the GST race. Now, a person in the transport industry, he cannot claim the input credit from the petrol products which he is buying, crude products which he is buying. It means that some of the income is being left out. And second is, few of the states have their objections even today for GST. And the GST Council and its functioning also has to be improved or speeded up. And with multiple rates and GST network matching every invoice, this all is going to be a huge technological mammoth. So any problem it can lead to a failure. So the GST network, how is it getting operated is also very much important. And there is an anti-profiteering clause. And any person who is involved in making profit from GST can be jailed. And any person who is evading the tax under GST can be jailed. So it can bring in new tax terrorism. That's what is being stated. So one way the Prime Minister has clearly stated that the GST will reduce the tax terrorism. But on the other side, understand, this anti-profiteering clause can bring in or give extra powers to the tax authorities. So these are the points which are being discussed over here. Now, the first article, it is again related to GST itself. So, the midnight makeover. So, the GST launch has been compared to the Prime Minister Nehru's speech on August 14th midnight. So, whatever be the case, the points in this article are already been discussed. The next is walk the talk. So this is about Prime Minister Modi's statement in reference to attacks by the Gau Rakshaks. So in the name of the cow, lives cannot be taken. So this is what the Prime Minister wanted to convey. So one way the Prime Minister's statements will express the seriousness of the problem. But on the other dimension, you can see the power of the social media. Not in my name. So this is what is the slogan that has become viral, and it has reached the Prime Minister to respond. So Prime Minister is very cautious about the social media and its power. So that's what we need to focus here on. But anything, if the rule of law fails in a particular country, whatever the reforms we bring in, they will not yield results. So that's why the rule of law has to be upheld by any sovereign nation. Now let's get into the next page. So again it is about GST. So the first most important system is uniquely Indian system. So here what the author says is the GST provides for an individual to enter into business very easily as he is not expected to take multiple permissions. But after once he enters into the business and if he is dealing with diverse products, then obviously GST is not a simple system to implement. It has its own complexities. That's what he tries to say. How this next article, how the center is protecting the state's interests. So for the first 3 years, the states will be completely compensated. 4th year, the center will be compensating them 75% for their losses. 5th year, it will be compensating them by 50%. From the 6th year, states are on their own. So in this context, remember one point. The center is allowed to levy cess on the sin goods over and above the 28%. It means the cost of goods, luxury cars, etc. is bound to increase. The cess so levied will be used to compensate the states. And on the D-Day, e-way bills, date of filing, all these are being delayed because the software system is not yet ready. These are the teething problems which we are expected to face. Now coming to the next page, the front page, it is majorly border standoff between India and the China. So if you take this border standoff issue, so the Doklam Plateau, it is at a tri-junction and it was a disputed territory between Bhutan and China. And in this case, the status quo is being disturbed by the Chinese forces by making a motorable roadway which was objected by Bhutan. It was clearly stated it was against 2008, 2009 and 12 agreements between these two countries. So India has resisted the resisted the Chinese movement and Chinese road making. So obviously it has led to a standoff in which pilgrims from moving to Kailash Manasarovar, they are being sent back by the Chinese authorities. And China also has reminded India of 1962 and the consequences thereof. India also gave a befitting reply to the same. And then the next article is not all rosy with border infrastructure. You have seen that the border infrastructure developed by China is of the world class. India is at least a decade away from developing such an infrastructure. Every post on the Chinese side is connected with the motorable roadways, but India is not prepared to that particular extent. So when UPA was in power, it wanted to develop 3 divisions of mountain strike crops. But however, NDA reduced it to 2 and NDA's focus is shifted towards creating infrastructure. But however, the projects are not moving as expected. Now a hard trek via Lipu Lake. So at Sikkim, between India and China, it is Nathula Pass. Today, from Uttarakhand, the pass connecting the Tibet, it is Lipu Lake Pass. Now we are taking a Lipu Lake Pass to reach to the Kailash Manasarovar. That is what is the article. And then the next is Germany legalizes gay marriages. Now, so the gay marriages, this is what is transgender rights in India. So LGBT rights we call it as. From this, try to understand the situation in India and you can quote this as an example whenever you are talking about the transgender rights across the world. So this will be more useful to us to quote as an example while talking about the transgender rights. Now in the last page I gave you the notes and these notes will be available to you at lax.in/civils-prep. And we have all the courses of us posted at lax.in/test-prep. So the skill development program in test prep, it is for 2018 students, not for 2017. For 2017 we have GS mentorship program alone. Thank you very much. All the best.